the ones that I enjoyed the most, I want to take into like my class is one of our classes we use something called FACE, which means focus, ask, comment, and employ. And I think that's just like a really great way to like give them kind of like a guideline to a conversation that they can be having with people. And it's just being able to like listen to like what each other are saying, ask them questions about like themselves, because we did it as like an icebreaker, so it's like talk about yourself kind of thing. And it's like make comments and like employ, which is more for like learning people's names. And I think like it was just like a nice bonding experience, because like I feel like I usually would not learn my classmates' names, especially during Zoom University.
Yeah. So the E was employ.
So it's kind of just being like, oh, like Alex, like, okay, cool. Like, and then kind of having conversations about their names and stuff like that. And that was really nice and fun. Another one was influence us, which was talk about something that would influence everyone in like the class. And it's kind of like people would say things like take care of your mental health because we're all living in a pandemic. And some things what some people would talk about like their history and their family's history and how their family influenced them to get to like where they are right now. And those were just really nice. And yeah, those were like the top two that I want to carry on into my class.
So there's this activity where it's kind of like an agree or disagree type of activity where like the professor asks a scenario or says a sentence and you agree with it or disagree, and you, if you're in a classroom setting, you meet in the middle when you're agreeing or disagreeing. And I think I want to use that just so it can break the ice of like how much, let's say if we have two different sides of the political spectrum, it can show how much people actually have in common when you stop listening to like the media and everything from the other side, about the other side and about stereotypes from the other side. And it can show like how much you can build together. And so I really want to use that into my classroom setting, like have a poll or something on Zoom. I think you can do that on Zoom. I still have to figure that out. But creating a poll so that it'll break the ice between each other so that people can actually have a conversation without being scared to admit what they're thinking at that time. And then another one was just to like ask a series of questions and see what people think about it. Like if they have an answer to it, if they want to share something personal that affects them within those questions, then being able to say that. And I like that one too, because it gives an option of, okay, which questions do you want to answer, to share how much of yourself, like, and it gives like people opportunities to share how much they want, how much they want to share with other people.
When you were talking about the activity in the classroom, was it like an actual like physical activity when people
yeah, you get up and then you go around to like the different signs where it's like disagree or agree or like it's neutral?
Yeah, I love those activities. I did those a lot with my first year students, and then we got to figure out how to like do that online, right? And that's the exact question that we're asking ourselves right now. So the poll is a good one. Let me see if I got it.
What's a good disagree and agree? Okay, so is there only one way of thinking about politics? Should there only be one specific way of thinking?
All right.
Oh, sorry, no, there should be one specific way of thinking about politics. Only one side is correct.
Yeah, so Hillary and Rob, put your is in. Okay, and then I can share results, and you would be able to do this as the host, right? So now you can talk about it. You can ask them to share, but I made this anonymous so you don't have to share if they don't want to, right? So you can make it a safe space, which is a really good point that you made earlier. You would have a couple more students, hopefully. And then I've done this because I'll share my intro activity in a minute, but you can stop the share and relaunch the same poll, and now you can ask the next question.
I feel like whenever, like I have tried to like play this before, and I think like something I always have a problem with that maybe you can help me with is how to like, if you are aware that like your community is a very like majority, like a certain type of community, how do you like phrase the questions to be like gray area enough, because like this whole thing's about gray area. It's just like how do you how do you best do that in a way, I guess? Is it just being like as broad as you can?
Yeah, actually, being a PSSA, the Student Association, we're actually not supposed to have a political thought on anything. We're supposed to be pretty neutral. So we actually had this problem when we were doing events on how are we going to make something not as, well, how are we going to make an event with questions that aren't as biased? But if you really think about it, if you just take away the liberal and conservative part of it and you just ask the question, it becomes a little bit more neutral than we would think it would be. So instead of like, okay, is this thing about immigration correct rather than something else? Or it's like, instead of saying that, it's more of like, what are your opinions on immigration?
Mm-hmm.
Here's what one side is thinking, here's what the other side is thinking. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like that. And I like the gray area point too. Maybe you have a agree, disagree, and I'm not sure, or both, or something like that. Little bit of each. Because yeah, that in between, giving them more than two options is probably always important.
Well, they're not exactly icebreakers, but a good way to like at least engage the students and stuff.
Yeah.
For me is I do almost like a role-based scenarios. So basically, in the past, when I've like taught about serial killers or specific people in the criminal justice system, regardless of how they actually were found guilty or innocent or never caught, that kind of stuff, I would have different students play different roles, such as like a jury or a defendant or a judge and things like that. And then they would all provide their own experience. They would use their experiences and their own personal beliefs and then kind of make decisions and judgments based off of that. And that was obviously more before now. So I thought of a way to kind of bring that into the digital age, and for other classes would kind of be like role-based breakout rooms, where every group is trying to come up with a setup for an overarching question and they all work amongst that then.